Last week on Trains Are Awesome,
we're riding the Lakeshore Limited from Chicago Union Station to Penn Station in New York City.
We were traveling in coach class from Chicago to New York City. We first spent the night sleeping through Ohio and woke up to views of Lake Erie in New York State. The rest of the day we spent traveling down Amtrak's Empire Corridor towards Schenectady, New York, and that's where we'll start today. Today, we're traveling to Albany, where the Lakeshore Limited will split into a New York and a Boston section, and then we'll travel down to New York City alongside the Hudson River, before arriving at Penn Station. If you love train travel, hit that subscribe button. We upload at least once a week, and this way you won't miss any of our content. You can also join our community on Patreon. Your support gives you access to cool features such as early video releases. And finally, follow us on our social media, Instagram and TikTok. So we're at Schenectady right now, only about a half hour away from the New York State capital, Albany. At Albany-Rensselaer Station, this train is going to split between a Boston section and a New York section. And the time at the station is over an hour, so we're going to catch that split for you. I believe the half hour between Schenectady and Albany might have been the fastest our train traveled the whole trip, based on the passing scenery.
Switch trains going to New York and others will have to get off to get up to Boston and other parts of Massachusetts. So folks, please start looking for your valuables, your electronics, put it together, and be ready, because we'll be in there in about 15 minutes. Albany coming up, folks.
I know I've been saying Albany in the videos, but I should really say Albany-Rensselaer. That's because the train station that serves New York State Capitol isn't actually in the capital itself. Instead of being in Albany, the trains first cross the Hudson River and then stop at the station in the neighboring city of Rensselaer. However, if you look out the window while we're pulling into Rensselaer Station, you should be able to catch a glimpse of the New York State Capitol. As we were slowly approaching Albany-Rensselaer Station, we soon found ourselves passing another Amtrak train. This was made up of several Amfleet 1 coaches and a P-32 locomotive up front. This was going to be the Empire service between Albany-Rensselaer and New York Station that would leave Albany about 20 minutes after our train left. We did arrive at the platforms first, and as soon as we got off the train, we got to see this Empire service train arrive. Welcome to Albany-Rensselaer. We're here till 4, so let's look at what our train was made of. We've got a Viewliner baggage car in the back, and then 1, 2, 3 Viewliners. So 2 sleeping cars and 1 restaurant car. Then we have our Amfleet 2 coach car. I wonder how many more. Six Amfleet cars, The coach car farthest to the front is the food service car and the business class car. Now, the New York and Boston sections split about halfway between coach cars.
So when the Boston section splits off, that's goodbye cafe car to the New York section. Goodbye, or should I say good riddance? I don't know.
Though the Boston section of the Lakeshore Limited may take away our cafe car, they only get one sleeper car. This is a Viewliner, which is a single-deck sleeper car that Amtrak uses in the eastern half of the United States because of clearance issues at New York Penn Station and around Baltimore. Do you see this P-32 locomotive standing all lonely on this track next to us? Just remember that one. He'll come back.
Attention please. This is a boarding call for Amtrak Lakeshore Limited Train 448 en route to Boston, with intermediate stops at Pittsfield, Springfield, Worcester, Framingham, and Boston Back Bay. Passengers should proceed to track. Please remove any travel documents from their envelope and have them ready for scanning by the conductor.
The P-42s roar into action, and the Boston section of the train lurches forward. But not to worry, Boston passengers, you haven't missed it yet. It's just being pulled forward so the Boston and the New York sections have a little bit of space in between them.
Please be advised, federal law requires all employees and customers to wear a mask at all times while on board transit and stations, regardless of vaccination status or state or local laws. Refusing to wear a mask is a violation of federal law. Passengers may be subject to penalties under federal law. Denied boarding, removed from train and bound for future travel, not required. Thank you for choosing Amtrak.
The New York section of the Lakeshore Limited spends more than an hour and a half at Albany-Rensselaer Station, and in this time, Amtrak's Ethan Allen Express from Rutland, Vermont, both arrives and departs from Albany. It gets you to New York about an hour earlier. I wonder if you're allowed to book the Lakeshore Limited and then transfer to the Ethan Allen Express for a faster arrival at New York. I don't know, but if you know, please let me know in the comments.
This is the last call for Amtrak Lakeshore Limited Train 448 en route to Boston with intermediate stops. Passengers should proceed to track 3. Attention please. This is the last call for Amtrak Ethan Allen Train 290 en route to New York with intermediate stops. Passengers should proceed to track 4. Please remove any travel documents from their envelope and have them ready for scanning.
Soon after the Boston section of the Lakeshore Limited leaves, the Ethan Allen Express to New York leaves as well.
The stop here in Albany-Rensselaer has a second purpose too. Not only is the train splitting destinations, the New York section is changing traction. We've been pulled by 2 P-42s, but our train is going into New York Penn Station, which is underground. No diesel fumes allowed. So our P-32 is equipped with a third rail shoe that'll pick up electric current the last little section in the tunnel into Penn Station.
After switching on to our track, this dual-mode locomotive slowly backs into the platform to connect to the Lakeshore Limited. The area underneath the platforms at Albany-Rensselaer Station is hollow, allowing for the train crews to safely move around and help with the combining and splitting of trains.
So that locomotive change is pretty cool, but then we're here for another hour, so we're gonna go explore the station. Bear already went into town and got Dunkin' Donuts. I don't think we can top that, but
We'll try.
The split and traction change at Albany-Rensselaer takes about half hour, and like I said, it's still another hour before we can leave to New York. Luckily, Albany isn't exactly the middle of nowhere, and even if you just stay at the train station, there's plenty of shops and restaurants to keep you busy and get what you need. With Albany being the capital city of the state of New York, there are a lot of commuters that travel between here and New York City, the state's largest city. And the station caters to those people, like this cafe that reserves the right to check your body temperature and serves relish in a plastic cup.
cafe car is closed, so we got a coffee for the last leg to New York City. I figured I'd commemorate this excessively long stopover with a keychain.
Time to head back to the train. Make sure you're on time, because in my previous travels I have seen the train leave without people. Returning to the train was easy enough. All we had to do was tell the attendant at the top of the stairs that we were returning passengers rather than newly boarding passengers, and there were quite a few people that got on the train here. Finally, at around 4 o'clock, we slowly pulled out of Albany-Rensselaer Station. Because this video was shot late in December of 2021, it was almost getting dark by this point. For the remainder of the trip to New York City, the Hudson River was our defining feature. The Hudson River is 315 miles, or about 500 kilometers long, and flows from the Adirondack Mountains in New York State down to New York City. For the last part of its journey, it forms the border between the states of New York and New Jersey and is crossed by several bridges and the PATH trains. It eventually flows out into New York Harbor, and I did not know this, but there are sections of the Hudson River that are actually deeper than the harbor that it flows into. The river was named after the British explorer Henry Hudson, who sailed up this river on a mission from the Dutch in the 1600s. The Hudson River views are what make the Empire Corridor famous, and I was excited to finally get to travel down it, even if it was getting dark. The Lakeshore Limited skips Hudson Station and Yonkers Station, only stopping at Rhinecliff, Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and Croton-Harmon between Albany and New York City. Poughkeepsie is the terminus station for the Metro-North Railroad Hudson Line, a commuter rail that goes into Grand Central Station in New York City, and is operated by the same agency that operates the New York subway. Now, the section between Poughkeepsie and Croton-Harmon is not electrified, and the MTA trains as well as the Amtrak trains here run on diesel. But the next stop, Croton-Harmon, is electrified, and many MTA trains that come up to Croton-Harmon are in fact electric trains. Now, I believe that they run on a third rail, which makes me wonder if Amtrak runs their trains on third rail for this section. I don't believe they do, and if they don't, why not? If you know, let me know in the comments as usual. Now, the tracks that we're currently running on are owned by the MTA. They're part of the Hudson Line, and soon after Croton-Harmon Station, we pass through something interesting. In the town of Ossining lies New York's high-security correctional facility, Sing Sing Prison, and the Hudson Line goes straight through that. So yeah, we just took a train straight through an infamous prison. The lights on the other side of the Hudson River are New Jersey, and that means that we are in the New York City borough of the Bronx. The MTA Hudson Line goes to Grand Central Station, but we're going to Penn Station over a dedicated track known as the Empire Connection, which is only used by Amtrak trains. After 20 hours on this train, it's finally time to pack our bags and get ready to get off the train.
Glad I didn't hurt anybody. Amtrak was so kind as to stop to let us inspect this beautiful light.
Right outside of New York Penn Station, waiting for our track assignment. As soon as we get there, we'll advance into the station. Now arriving on final destination, New York Penn Station. Once again, please make sure you search the areas for all your personal belongings. Doors are open on the platform side. Use caution when you open the this flank out between the train and the platform. Anyone traffic.
Thank you. Penn Station.
Transit 6:41 p.m. Montclair.
Now we're about to head into Moynihan Train Hall, the brand new arrival hall of Penn Station here in New York. It used to be the post office, now it's a gorgeous terminal. I think I'm going to save the review for the Lakeshore Limited for tomorrow. We'll report that tomorrow so that, you know, we've been able to sleep over it, get some rest, and really tell you guys how the experience was. But first, Moynihan Train Hall. Well, there's the train hall. Hudson Yards in the back.
Thank you, guys.
No, thank you. Penn Station is right beneath Madison Square Gardens. Of course, I love traveling by train, so I had a lot of fun on Amtrak's Lakeshore Limited. What I really liked about this trip was the Amfleet 2 cars. They are so comfortable, almost Superliner level. The scenery of Lake Erie and the Hudson River and the Mohawk River was really cool, and that whole split in Albany is kind of a unique feature of this train. So I definitely enjoyed that. Also, it's so much fun to travel with Lindsay and Bear. Things that I thought could have gone better was definitely the staff issue. Like they were just too rude. I know we're all human. We all have good days and bad days, but we have more Amtrak trip reports coming up. So make sure to subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Patreon, and we'll see you next time.